What seems to have changed, and of course, we don't know the full story. We don't have access to the heads of the people who would have been behind this. But what seems to have changed is the tenor and the stakes in Russian politics. Putin earlier this year, shepherded through a constitutional referendum that saw his ability to remain in power extended as far as 2036. But what that showed was that the enthusiasm for him among the Russian population is weakening. We've seen protests around the country, particularly in the Far East, but a lot of solidarity with that around the country. And we've seen preparations for regional elections, likely in September, and then parliamentary elections at some point after that, really show up the weakness of the ruling party when it comes to public opinion. And so Putin, I think, may feel, and some of his handlers may feel, that now is not the time to trifle with the opposition, particularly when they look at events in places like Belarus, where until recently leaders like Lukashenko felt very secure.
Why use Novichok? One of Navalny's allies had said that it's almost the autograph of the Russians. It's so deeply associated with them. Do you think that was oversight, or was it a very deliberate move to use that specific nerve agent?
That's really hard to say. The logic is not entirely clear to me. It does suggest, if this in fact is what happened, it does suggest that this was calculated to send a message, right? So of course there's the official denials. We've heard from the foreign ministry and others, and the government say it had nothing to do with this, and that this is all fake news from Germany and from the West. But you're right. It does suggest that. That the Russian state would have a clearer link to this, which I think would, possibly be calculated to send a message to the rest of the opposition that the Kremlin is not playing games.
When we hear Novichok, our minds think to, of course, the Skripal poisoning in Salisbury in Britain. And there was a very strong international condemnation of Russia at that point. Many Russian diplomats were expelled from countries, not just in the EU, but outside as well. Of course, that was a poisoning that happened on British soil. That wasn't what happened with Navalny. He's now in Germany. But do you think there'll be a similar sort of international reaction? What might this do in terms of disrupting Russia's relationship with the West?
Well, Berlin obviously seems to be taking this very seriously, and obviously it's taking the case to Brussels, both to the EU and to NATO, and it will be trying to rally some kind of a communal response. But you're right; this will appear to many European leaders and many NATO leaders as a less brazen attack, because it did not occur on foreign soil. It did not occur in Europe itself. So it raises the question, really, of the extent to which Europe is happy to maintain, more or less normal relations, or the current state of relations with Moscow, if Moscow is going to handle its internal politics this way. Right? Moscow has maintained the position and the facade of maybe an imperfect, but still a democracy, right? And democracies don't poison leading opposition politicians, and so this. Raises really the question to the extent to which Europe wants its policies and its foreign policies to be based on value.
So we're looking to see how that develops. What about internally in Russia? How are the population going to perceive this?
Well, obviously the population are going to get a message that's somewhat different than here. The media are increasingly tightly controlled. Most people still get a lot of their news through television, all of which is controlled by the state. And the state has a pretty robust operation on the internet as well. And so most people will get the message, the official message at least, that this is all being orchestrated by Russia's enemies in the West. And the government goes out of its way to really ignore Navalny's existence in general. Putin and the Kremlin will usually not use his name. This will obviously, though, I think, galvanize those people who are supportive of Navalny and those who are supportive of a different political future. It raises the stakes for them, which I think begins to create kind of a now or never moment. So this could have potentially the opposite effect that the Kremlin was looking for, and that it could actually bring more people out into the streets if they feel that a great injustice has been done.